Hey.
Shawn Hudson with One Key Escrow, everybody.
Hi, how you doing?
Thanks so much for joining us, Dreamers. Today, we're going to take the mystery out of the E word, escrow.
Yes.
And Shawn, tell us about what you do and who you are.
Okay, well, my name is Shawn Hudson. I'm the branch manager and senior escrow officer with One Key Escrow in Northridge. And we do just that. We handle the escrow process between the buyer, the seller, and the agents once you've entered into a contract.
Awesome. Okay, so you're going to need escrow services whether you're a buyer or a seller. And tell us a little bit about that process. Do they need to come into the office to sign all the papers? And what does the escrow service here offer as far as if the customer isn't in town, or maybe they're out of state, or even out of the country?
Okay, so first I think we'll start with a little bit about why you need escrow. As the escrow company and escrow officer, we have a financial responsibility between the buyer and the seller, essentially to make sure that the contract is held to. So the buyer has their responsibilities and the seller has their responsibilities, and making sure that all those responsibilities are done before funds are handed over to the seller for proceeds and the property is delivered to the buyer. Anything else?
Awesome. So you're making sure that the money is taken care of and goes to all the correct parties.
Correct.
Can the buyers or the sellers, can they wire money? How does that part of it work?
Yeah. So the purchase agreement actually here in California defaults to the buyer wiring their deposit into escrow. So unless we receive other instructions on the contract, those funds have to be wired into escrow. And then the seller can choose for their proceeds whether or not they want a wire transfer, or if they want to have a check delivered to them, or if they want to pick it up in their office, that's fine too.
Okay, so if a buyer wants to come in with a bucket of cash or a personal check, can they do that?
They cannot do that. We don't have the ability to handle physical cash. All of our deposits are done via a remote scan into our bank. If they do decide to hand in a personal check or a cashier's check for the deposit, for closing funds, that has to be a wire because there's clearing times involved. We operate off of what's called the California Good Funds Law, which means those funds have to not only be deposited into our account, but they have to have cleared into our account for us to use it. Otherwise, we're using somebody else's funds to close that transaction, which is against the escrow law.
Awesome. So the government wants you to verify the funds came from a seasoned, real account and the
Correct.
money's in there.
It's more for us. It's the lenders do making sure that the buyer's funds came from where the buyers disclosed their funds were coming from. But in the escrow side of the transaction, we just need to make sure that those funds are clear and usable in our account before we start dispersing funds to clients.
Great, that sounds pretty clear. Now, how about if you have a situation where the people are out of town? The parties involved are not here, and they can't get into the office here to meet you and see you in person.
Yeah. So we do most of the documents are completed via DocuSign. If the client prefers us to email them a copy or overnight them a copy, we're more than happy to do that. But DocuSign for the bulk of the documents is the fastest, quickest, easiest way for us to get the signed paperwork and information from the parties, their lender, who their insurance company might be. And then as far as the documents that require wet signature and notarization, they have two options. One, they can come into our office. We're here Monday through Friday. I'm here basically 8:15 to 5:15 every day. Or if we need to, we have a team of mobile notaries and notary services that service the entire country. They'll locate a notary for you. The notary will make an appointment with you. They'll come, sign the documents, and then they'll even return them to us via FedEx. We provide them with a FedEx label to make it as easy as possible for them, so they're not having to run around to various locations to get something notarized and then drop it off for delivery to us. That's the quickest, most effective way.
So Shawn, what is the cost of a mobile notary on average, and who's responsible for paying that in the transaction?
So transactionally, we typically have two different sets of mobile notaries. We have one for the seller where they'll do that, they'll notarize the grant deed, any trust certifications that need to be signed and notarized. The seller would pay the cost of that. It's typically $75 to $100, but the notary, again, they come out to you, So you don't have to worry about taking, additional time off of work. These mobile notaries work a wide variety of hours. They'll come to your house in the evening when, one or more parties are there and available to do the signing, and then they'll drop that document back off at FedEx again and, have it to us. So it does take a lot of the logistical nightmares or, things that families are busy, and it makes them not have to run around.
Well, yeah, just sitting in traffic alone is worth $75 or $100 to me.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about a situation where, say, a husband is on the loan by himself and he wants to maybe do what's called a vesting to his spouse or partners or family members that want to be added later. Is that something that you handle?
That is actually not something that we handle, and it's more because of the way the laws are written. If we prepare, we can prepare certain documents when a client's in escrow. Okay, so we can prepare, like, it's called a quick claim deed, where maybe a spouse comes off of title or removes their right title and interest of property, because let's say a husband's going on by himself, he's getting the loan in his name, and the lender requires him to take title as a married man, sole and separate property. We can prepare the quick claim deed for the spouse at that time, but once the escrow closes, we're no longer in a transactional agreement with the parties. The state of California looks at that as us practicing law, which we're not allowed to do. So we can't practice law, we can't give accounting or legal advice.
Okay, so who would handle that?
They could go to, there's third-party document preparation companies.
Okay.
We the People, LegalZoom, their own attorney, paralegal, or they can use the existing documents as a template to do it themselves if they choose, because you can practice law for yourself,
Yep.
right? Like, you can be your own attorney in court, you can prepare your own legal documents, but somebody who isn't an attorney or a paralegal cannot prepare those documents for you. It's just the way the law works.
Awesome. Thanks for that information. Now tell us all why you became an escrow officer.
Well, I was kind of reluctant on being an escrow officer.
You were?
In the beginning, yeah. So my family came from the mortgage lending business.
Okay.
My grandfather was a loan officer for Wells Fargo, and for the longest time as a kid, escrow was a bad word. Grandpa would
Really?
always come in, escrow this, escrow that. It happens. But then my aunt worked really closely with another escrow officer here in the Valley, and I started working there as a receptionist. I've held literally every position within the escrow
You've
company.
done it all.
Yeah, which I think is helpful because
Yeah.
you can't train if you haven't done. So having done every position within the escrow office kind of, I think, makes me an effective leader and manager, because then I have the experience. I know what the pitfalls are. I know what to tell them, what to look out for. But it was the best paid internship I could have ever had.
Well, escrow's come a long way, and thank you for contributing your knowledge and kindness and patience with all of my clients and all my future clients. We also have a different question that has nothing to do with escrow. I always ask my interviewees, what is your dream, Shawn?
My dream, I'm a relatively simple gentleman, but I do truly enjoy and love the outdoors. So me and my wife we have a couple of them, but one that I, off the top of my head, I don't remember. It's like a poster, like kind of has like the lottery scratch off silver stuff on it.
Yeah.
But it's for all the national parks in the United States.
Cool.
So, my goal is for me and my wife to be able to visit and scratch off every one of those.
Awesome. I love that dream, and it's all about spinning the wheel and you never know where you're going to go.
Yep.
Well, I think you're going places, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for coming out and taking time with us today. If you need an escrow officer, I recommend Shawn Hudson. He is the branch manager and senior escrow officer here at One Key Escrow.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm off to sell some more things, and if you need a dream, call me. I'll help you with that. See you
Awesome.
later.
Bye.
That was really good.